So now that you've seen how easy it is to create and scale a web app in Microsoft Azure, let's look at some other cool things you can do in a web app, starting with authentication. Now, authentication is a process that determines who is trying to access some kind of resource. You might be familiar with password authentication, where you're required to enter a username and password to authenticate to a website or to an app. And you can certainly do that with a web app and app service as well. But it's way easier on users of your app if they can simply authenticate using a service they might already be authenticated to. So for example, maybe you want to allow someone to authenticate to your web app using their Microsoft account or their Google account. It's likely you've been to a website at some point and seen the option to log in with an account from another app or site. In fact, when I was accessing PowerShell or the command line interface for Azure a while back, I got a pop-up that required me to authenticate using my Microsoft account, and that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Now, configuring that in an app service web app is super easy because it's a PaaS service and Microsoft provides all the software to enable this functionality. Now, app service offers many different identity providers. And when I say many, I mean many. You can use any of these providers listed here, and as I said a second ago, because app service is a PaaS service, you can use this feature simply by turning it on and entering a small amount of configuration data. So as we're prone to do in this course, let's do a demo. Let's head back to the Azure portal. Let's have a look at web app authentication. So this is our GSWA web app, the one we created a little while ago. Been looking at this a little bit, and what I want to do is configure authentication. Right now anybody can browse to this web app. So what I'm going to do is configure authentication for it. So what I'm going to do is go to Settings and click on Authentication. And when I do that, I see I don't have any identity providers, so I'm going to add one. I'm going to add an identity provider, and now I have to choose the identity provider from this list. This is the same list of identity providers I showed on the slide not long ago, so we want to use a Microsoft account. I could use one of these others as well. The steps are just tiny bit different, but it walks you through the whole processes I'm going to show you here. So we'll choose Microsoft, and the tenant type is Workforce. That's fine. The app registration type, I'm just going to leave that at Create a new app registration. What that means is in order for you to authenticate using your Microsoft account, we have to create an app in the Microsoft account environment that can be used to authenticate this web app. So what we're going to do is create a new app registration. It's going to do it for us. Actually, all we have to do is just leave that radio button selected. I'm going to call this GSWA. Now this name is something that people will see when they get the little dialog that says login using your Microsoft account. So if that name is not descriptive enough for you, you can change it so people know what it is. We have different support account types. I'm just going to leave it at current tenant, single tenant. That's totally fine. If you don't know what to choose there, you can click the Help Me Choose link App Service Authentication Settings. Simply allows you to determine how this is enforced on your web app. So if Require Authentication is checked, that means if somebody browses to this web app, they're going to have to authenticate in order to access it. They're not going to be able to access it unless they're authenticated. If you choose this method, then of course anyone can access. So we're going to require authentication, and then unauthenticated requests are going to get a specific HTTP code depending on what you select here. So we'll leave this at 302. That's totally fine. Now the next thing we need to do is set up permissions. And this is what I was telling you before, where when you access the website in this case, you'll get a little pop-up that'll ask you to log in with your Microsoft account credentials. And at the bottom of that dialog, it's going to say this web app is requesting the following information. And what it's going to say with the existing settings is it's going to say this web app wants to sign in on your behalf and read your user profile and the user will have to accept that in order for it to authenticate them using their Microsoft account. You can add permissions here. If I click Add Permission, you see if I check this one for example, it'll say this app wants to sign in and read your user profile and view your email address. Now in that case people might say, oh wait a minute, I don't want you reading my email address, so I'm going to say no. So it's recommended that you use the minimum number of permissions that you absolutely need. So there we go. We'll say these two because I went in there and I chose that it removed the permissions, but I'm just going to add these two right here, view your basic profile and sign you in. Now I'm going to click Add, and that's going to add that identity provider to my web app. So we're done. I didn't have to write any code or anything like that. All I had to do was add that as an identity provider. And that's really how easy it is to set up authentication for your web app. Now let's test that out. I'm going to go back to Overview, and I'm just going to click this link that goes to my web app and look at here. It is now asking me to log on to my account. And it says this app would like to view your basic profile and maintain access to data you've given it access to. I'm going to say Accept, and now my web app comes up, and I am authenticated to this web app. If I had some code running in there that identified who the authenticated user was, it would identify that it's me because I am authenticated now to this web app.